my channel, where nightmares are not just dreams, but real stories waiting to be told. Tonight, I bring you terrifying true stories. Stories that will make you question reality. Stories so disturbing they might just keep you up at night. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and whatever you do, don't look behind you.
Location: Chicago, Illinois. Year: 2015. Lena had always slept with one foot hanging off the bed. It was a habit she had since childhood. Something about feeling the cool air brush against her skin helped her relax. That is, until the night she felt it. It started as a soft touch. A feather-light sensation across her toes, so faint she barely noticed it. Half asleep, she wiggled her foot away, thinking it was just the blanket shifting. But then, it grabbed her. Not hard, not painful, just firm. Cold fingers wrapping around her ankle. Her breath caught. A full-body chill spread through her, rooting her in place. The grip wasn't tight, but it was wrong, like something testing her, feeling her skin, seeing how much it could hold before she reacted. Her eyes flicked open. She didn't dare move. The room was dark, but not completely. Her nightlight cast a faint glow across the floor. Slowly, she turned her head toward the edge of the bed, where the sensation had come from. Nothing. Just the floor. Just empty darkness beneath her bed. Her mind raced. Had she imagined it? A dream, slipping into reality? She swallowed hard, yanked her foot back under the covers, pressing herself deep into the mattress. Then, she heard it. A slow, rasping breath, coming from under the bed. Lena's body went rigid. The air felt heavier, pressing down on her chest. A sharp, suffocating weight of pure terror. She wanted to run, to leap off the bed and bolt for the door, but she was frozen, because deep down she knew. If she moved, it would know she was awake. The breathing continued, low, deep, too deep to be hers. Then a slow, dragging sound. Something shifted beneath her. Her fingers twitched. She had to look, she had to know. With the smallest movement, she tilted her head just enough to peek over the edge of the bed. And that's when she saw it. A shadow, shifting. Not a normal shadow. It pulsed. It breathed. A slow, stretching movement, like something crawling backward into the darkness. Lena clamped her hand over her mouth, choking back a scream. The shadow melted into the blackness. But just before it disappeared, she saw them. Two glowing white eyes staring directly at her. Lena didn't sleep for the rest of the night. She couldn't move. Every muscle locked in place, her ears straining for the smallest sound. But the breathing was gone. The shadows had vanished. When the first light of dawn crept through her window, she finally moved. Her stomach twisted. She had to check, had to prove to herself it was all in her head. On shaking legs, she dropped to her knees, took a breath. Then, she lifted the blanket. Nothing, just the empty, dust-covered floor. She let out a breathless laugh. "God, I'm losing it," she whispered. But as she stood up, her foot landed on something. She froze. It was cold. Looking down, her heart stopped. There on the floor was a single, blackened handprint, right where she had stepped.
Story number 2.
Location: Kensington Manor, upstate New York. Year: 2023. The old Kensington Manor had stood for nearly 2 centuries, its stone walls weathered by time, its history whispered about in town. No one had lived in it for decades, not since the last owner, a reclusive scholar named Edwin Caldwell, vanished without a trace in 1934. When the manor finally went up for sale, Samuel Grayson, a history professor, saw it as an opportunity, his chance to restore and document an old piece of history. It was a sprawling estate filled with grand hallways, intricate wooden carvings, and fireplaces that hadn't burned in years. But there was something wrong with the house. It started with the blueprints. As Samuel went over the original architectural plans, he noticed an inconsistency. The house had one more room than what was physically present, a missing space, as if a whole section of the manor had been erased. He searched for days, knocking on walls, measuring spaces, convinced the house held a secret. Then, on the fifth night, he found the door. It was behind a bookshelf in the study, so well hidden that unless you knew exactly where to look, you'd never suspect a thing. The door was old, covered in dust, but locked from the outside, as if someone had deliberately sealed it away. His heart pounded. He hesitated, but curiosity was stronger than fear. He pried it open. A rush of cold air spilled out, stale and ancient. The room was wrong. Unlike the rest of the house, which had been left to decay, this room was pristine. A desk sat perfectly arranged. An oil lamp rested beside an open book. A chair was pulled slightly away, as if someone had just been sitting there, but there was no dust. It was as if time had stopped inside. Samuel's stomach tightened. He stepped in cautiously, eyes scanning every detail. Then he saw the diary. The diary's cover was worn leather, but the pages inside were crisp, untouched by time. The last entry was dated March 14th, 1934. I hear them at night now, the whispers. The walls are thinner than they should be. There is something behind them, watching. I should not have opened the room. I should have left it alone, but it called to me the way it calls to all who enter. It knows my name. I am leaving this here in case someone finds this place again. If you are reading this, do not stay after dark. Samuel's breath came fast. His hands trembled as he turned the page, but there was nothing else. Then, a thump. Samuel froze. The sound had come from inside the room, but he was alone. Another thump, louder, from the wall. His pulse pounded. He backed toward the door, suddenly desperate to leave. But then the lamp flickered. A shadow stretched across the wall, but not from him. His breath caught. Something moved in the wall, a shape, shifting beneath the plaster, pressing outward. Fingers pushed through. A hand, too long, too thin, nails scraping against the surface. Samuel ran. He slammed the door shut and shoved the bookshelf back in place, chest heaving. He knew, deep in his bones, that room had never been meant to be opened. For the rest of the night, the house was silent. He barely slept, jumping at every creak of the wood, every whisper of the wind. By morning, he convinced himself it had been a dream. The stress of restoring an old house playing tricks on him. Maybe he'd imagined the diary, the hand, the shadows. He went back to check. The bookshelf was moved, the door was open, and the diary was gone. He should have left. He knew that. But the house wouldn't let him. That night, as he lay in bed, the whispers started. Faint, distant, calling his name. Then came the scratching. From inside the walls. Closer, closer. Then, the creak of a door slowly opening. His bedroom door. And standing in the doorway, half hidden in the dark. Something watched him. Not a man, not Edwin Caldwell. Something older, hungrier, waiting. The last thing Samuel saw before the candle blew out was it stepping toward him.
Okay, you made it. But are you sure you are alone? Shadows stretch long in the dark, and sometimes things watch from the corners. If you enjoy the stories, make sure to subscribe my channel before it's too late. Leave a comment below if you are there, but remember, some stories should never be told. I hope I'll see you very soon.